Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You may know me as the Grimm's List or the Grim Reaper. Today we're going to make fun of a dream stan. Basically, I think it's a troll, but either way, I'm still going to call him out, and I'm going to make fun of each one of the stupid, dumb sexuality that they created. Which this includes dream sexual, because that's not actually a sexuality, that's just a fetish. Or an attraction. Or both, actually. So now let's start making fun of them. I made a small college of some of the many valid sexualities often rejected by the LGBT fandom, reminding them that they are loved and valid. Gen, dream sexual, mictisexual, anime sexual, pride, LGBTQ, LGBT. So these are all the sexuality that they are calling it. Although I wouldn't really call any of them a sexuality. In fact, I would call them more an attraction or a fetish. Or maybe both, but they're not a sexuality. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know exactly specifically on autistic sexual because some people, like myself, sound very normal compared to a lot of other people and we can look more normal. So I'm gonna remove that one off the list since it's not really enough for me to say that I want to talk about that anyways. Because getting a deep dive into the autistic is just, I would have to make an entire new video about it if I'd really want to. Which, I'm gonna be real, I don't want to make a YouTube video about it. So, I am autistic, and honestly, I think that having autistic sexuality is just kind of pointless. And there's no real point of having it there. So, I don't really know why it was there in the first place. Because it's supposed to be stupid, but this is not really stupid because, I mean, if you're attracted to someone who has autism, then I mean you're attracted to someone who have autism. I don't know what to say about that. So honestly, that one is removed for that purpose. But the others, I will be saying my opinion about it and making fun of them. So let's start with basically the people's names of sexuality. So specifically like YouTubers that people have sexual attraction to according to what they say. But let's be real again. These are fetish or attraction, not sexuality. I have to be clear because they're not sexuality. They're just fetishes. Alright, now let's get to it. Let's start by dream sexual. So Dream is actually 23, which actually caught me by surprise because I thought I heard he was a minor, which is surprising because technically this would make him older than I am. Anyways, honestly, I don't really seem like it's the biggest problem, but the issue I have with it is that they make it out as sexuality. So it's still kind of weird, and it basically makes me want to make fun of them because it's not a sexuality, it's a fetish, it's an attraction, it's nothing else, nothing more. Also, I'm gonna be real, Dream is pretty much not really someone I'm really fond with because he's really stupid in my opinion and has done a lot of things that I just don't agree with or condone with, such as sending a bracelet of basically images of himself as a child, which it was seen many times by people, and some dream sexual would actually get that and they're all proud of it, which is really weird, especially knowing that it was images of him as a child. So, in my opinion, this definitely rubs me the wrong way. So, honestly, you can see why I don't really like Dream in the first place. Dream is pretty much really weird, and I don't like him as a content creator, and I'm not a fan of him. Alright, so now these people are also on the list, which basically they're called sexuality apparently, which I mean, I don't really seem to see a difference much because I don't really know much about them. So I'm just going to show you each of the, literally their age on all of them, because it's not really much of a concern as much, it's just weird. And honestly, it's just a fetish that is an attraction. I honestly think it's weird and people should bully them because they're idiots for posting it online. But I don't really know them and I don't really know their story. So I don't know if I don't like them or not. But that's pretty much what I gotta say. However, if you use those flags and say it's a sexuality, it's not a sexuality, it's an attraction or a fetish, whichever one it is. Basically, if you're literally attracted to the point where you basically, I'm not going to say the word, but something, and basically, that would be fetish. Now, if it's just you look at them and you're attracted, which basically you think they're attractive, then it's an attraction. That's it. It can be both as well, but that's pretty much all. Honestly, that's my opinion on this entire thing of those people. Now, let's get a little bit more into the side of where it really gets a little more on thin ice. Now, I know that these people are 18, but the issue I have with this is still kind of sus. And the idea that basically a lot of these people probably had the sexuality before, so I'll put it as a sexuality, like Tommy was one example of that, which I have seen before, which would probably when he was 17. So I still have to say it's really, really weird. And the idea that he was younger when this happened, and basically people were still putting it out there with a lot of these people, it's still kind of sus. And it's still a form of, the P word. So that is my opinion on this, on those people. But if you think that's bad, let's get into even thinner ice. Now, to be clear, just before, I want to explain it better to what some people might think of what I'm interpreting. I'm not calling people the P word because they're attracted to 18. I'm stating it because when they were 17, they probably used it as an attraction even before this. Like Tommy was a perfect example of that. He was 17 when basically some of the dream sexual were calling it a sexuality as a 17-year-old, which is really weird. Now, this is pretty obvious to why I said this was the worst of them all, because literally Jellybean is a 17-year-old. She is the only minor, but some of them were minors when this happened. So some of the dream sexual would have made it out of like they were a sexuality even before they were 18. So this is still really weird and messed up. They'll probably just wait till she's even 18 and then do all those things. But either way, they don't really care. Dreamosexual are pretty freaking crazy. Now let's talk about these weird fetish that these people have. Honestly, I have to say that the Roblox, Among Us, Fortnite, and anime are maybe a little less worse. But anime can depend on the situation because if it looks like a minor in my opinion, it's really sus. And honestly, I don't want to get into too much of the detail, but I will say some of my opinion about it. So let's start with anime sexual since I've already started talking about it. Now, I'm gonna be honest, anime are not really something I'm a fan of. I don't really like anime. In fact, I am probably one of the people that just doesn't like anime at all. There is almost no anime I ever like. The only anime I actually really do enjoy are animated series or the Teen Titans. But that's pretty much all I really like, and everything else I just can never get into. So what I'm saying is I'm not an expert in anime, so I have this image right here to show you an example of anime, but I'm not really much into anime, so I don't really see much of the thing differences from them. But I can tell you one thing is if you're attracted to the child in that image, it still seems very sus. And I'd call you out for it if it looks young. But thank God it's not lolly, right? But it still looks young. So it's still weird in my opinion. It doesn't matter whether it's not real. The idea is if you look at a depiction of something that looks like a child, it's still very immoral. And also, it should be something you should get help from. Also, being attracted to cartoons in general, I'd honestly make fun of you for it because it's weird, it's not natural, and it looks stupid in my opinion. What I mean by that is honestly, you're not going to get someone that is anime. Just saying, honestly, it's just weird in my opinion. Next, I'll be talking about Roblox sexual. Honestly, I don't know why this is a sexuality in the first place. This is kind of worse than anime because, in some form, how are you attracted to Roblox in the first place? This looks like they look literally like toys. So, how can toys turn you on, in my opinion? Honestly, that's like the same idea if someone's attracted to a Lego, in my opinion. I'm sorry to say, but having an attraction towards Roblox is just weird. And honestly, I have to say that overall, it's not like the most worst. It's just weird, in my opinion, because it's not really looking like a human or anything. It looks like a toy. So I don't know why someone can have an attraction to that in the first place. But yeah, it's still weird. Next is Among Us Sexual. Honestly, I have to say this one is a lot familiar to Roblox, except it's not a toy, but it's still like not really human or anything. It's just literally nothing but a little alien dude, a little bunum. Honestly, I think it's still weird and unnatural. It's the same idea as it being a cartoon. So, honestly, in my opinion, if you like Among Us in that way, in a fetish way, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you have your own issues. Honestly, it's just weird. That's all I gotta say. That's all. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've seen overall. Like, I mean, I gotta be real. The Jelly Bean one is probably the worst because overall she's 17. But I also have to say necrophilia is worse and zoophilic. But honestly, it's hard to say which one's the worst. So, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. And the Among Us sexual is a lot less worse because it's just a cartoon and nobody really cares. Honestly, that's all I gotta say. And I think that the person who has sexuality towards it has some issues, but there's not much I can do. Alright, the next one I gotta say is Fortnite sexual. I'll be honest, it's not the worst. It actually is probably a little bit more normal than most of the other ones. But I still gotta say, it's still a weird fetish overall. Because I still don't want to hear someone tell me that they have a fetish over Fortnite on the internet. Like, literally, this happens all the time where people are gonna tell that they have a fetish over something that is just so stupid. And honestly, it's like you're asking to get bullied. I'll be honest, overall, you should never be telling on the internet what your fetish is if you have one, because it's just weird and it's just like you're asking to get bullied. And honestly, in some cases, they have every reason to. Like the example of Zoophile, they have every right to go make fun of them and bully them and make them cry. I don't care because they're bad people. Some of them actually do commit the act. So if you have pride in it and having a fetish on these things, you got to be like incredibly stupid or something. I'm sorry to say, but I'm just being honest here. That it is weird to be proud of something like that on any of these in general. They're just laughable, in my opinion. Not only that, but if you have a Fortnite fetish, Roblox fetish, all those cartoon fetish, just keep it to yourself, man. I don't want to hear you have a fetish on something so dumb and stupid, and I don't want to hear about it. Just saying. Now I'm going to talk about the three worst ones I think they are, in my opinion. The first one, I'm going to be talking about SCP. You might be wondering, why did I put this one to the most worst of them all? Well, in my opinion, it's just really, really weird. I will explain to you in very reasons on why I think this one's a little worse than anime, but let's get started. So as you can see, they are often very different type of creatures, which are like monsters. SCP can often look like animals sometimes, or just monster overall. Either way, they're all monsters, but some of them do look a lot like animals, and some of them do look like humans, and some of them can look like children. So it very much varies on the different one you're looking at. Also, a lot of times it's very bloody and gory to understand some of the side of it. So it can be very bloody. So it's kind of like necrophilia with a bit of zoophilia in both of them at the same time, in my opinion, if you're attracted to them. Although they are not real, they are still an idea of very detailed things that happen. Now, I'm not saying that you can't watch this because SCP is very interesting documentaries that they do show, but it's fictional. Alright, so it's not real. But having literally a fetish towards them is really weird because honestly, they are close to looking like animals, some of them, and some of them can look like children, and some of them can look like human, but it's still weird. Alright, but I will confirm that a lot of the things in there is actually very interesting. And they're very mysterious a lot of times when you do look in there. So I do like looking at SCP, but honestly, I don't understand the fetish part in it. I don't know why people have fetish or attraction to it in the first place because it's really weird. Like, really, really, really weird. And honestly, yeah. And a lot of them are actually in a video game, which you can see when you play sometimes in horror video games or horror films. So that's what it is. And honestly, they're pretty creative, some of them. Honestly, I do recommend you check them out, but not in that way, in the fetish way. So that's what I gotta say about it. Alright, next is necrophilia. Honestly, I have to say this one is the second worst because honestly, this one is a lot of people have a sexuality towards dead bodies, which is very wrong and immoral. Anyways, I'm not going to talk too much about necrophilia. I just don't see the point of talking too much about it, but if someone dies, you got to respect the body and leave them die in peace because that is the respectful thing to do. And I don't want to get into details because it can be pretty much a lot of information. So, for that reason, I'm not going to talk about it. Last but not least, it's zoophile or zoosexual. Pretty much people who are attracted to animals. Now, I'm obviously not going to get more into details with these ones because these I've already made a lot of YouTube video about them and I've exposed many zoophile in the past and still to this day. And honestly, all I'm going to say is basically having an attraction towards animals and having fetishes towards them, or even to the point where you will actually commit the act, is already enough for me to say you should be arrested for life. Same way as necrophilia, but I don't want to get into details with necrophilia because it's a little more dark to hear. It's a little more hard to hear than even zoophile. Even zoophile is hard for people to hear, but necrophilia can get even deeper. Anyways, this is my opinion about everything. Why dream sexual sucks, and every dream sexual are really horrible. Now, I know that some of them are cartoon and all, but come on, man. These sexuality that you're calling it, they're not sexuality, they're fetishes. And honestly, I think that a lot of these people are idiots. And a lot of these dream stands are idiots as well, because overall they just try so hard to get Dream. Anyways, like, subscribe for more, and if you don't, you'll have to hear Dream Stands scream at your ear all day. Love y'all, and peace out.